Okay, so I welcome all of you once again. So today's topic of discussion is drift and resistance. Okay, so these topics are very important. So this is the last topic of module one. In this section, let us try to understand what do we mean by drift of electrons and holes, and also meanwhile we will calculate the mathematical equation for resistance in semiconductor materials. This actual usage of this topic will be done in next module. There we will use this, the term called drift current. Okay, when we say drift current, it is because of both electrons and holes. There is another equivalent current which is flowing in a semiconductor, devices. What is that current? Anybody has an idea? There are two types of current that will flow in a semiconductor. One current I am discussing right now is drift current. So drift current is basically a current that flows in a semiconductor due to the applied, electrical force. Okay, so because of applied the voltage, that creates an electric field, and that makes electrons and holes to move in a semiconductor device. So such type of current is called as a drift current. So now I want to know from your side, what is another equivalent current that flows in a semiconductor apart from this drift current? Anybody has an idea about that? No idea? Hello, are you there? See, if you have to answer something, whether you know or not knowing, you should answer no.
No, sir.
Okay, I will come across the term called as a diffusion current.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's another current which is flowing in a semiconductor. So semiconductor is composed of two types of current. One is drift current, what we are seeing here. The drift current, as I told you, it is because of applied voltage. Without applying voltage, there is another current that results. The current is called as diffusion current. You will get to know the diffusion current in PN junction. How exactly diffusion current will flow in a semiconductor. So diffusion current is basically due to the concentration gradient. In a PN junction, if you see, one side there will be a concentration of holes, and other side there will be a concentration of the electrons. So there will be change in the gradient of those concentration, and that change causes the diffusion current. Without electric field, if the current is flowing, that's the diffusion current. With electric field, if the current is flowing, that's labeled as drift current. Now let us try to understand drift current and what is the resistance offered by the semiconductor material for the drift current. Okay, so when we say drift, it is we need to consider both electrons and as well as holes. If the semiconductor bar, you can see here there is a semiconductor bar I have chosen here. This is the bar which I have considered here to explain the concept of drift and as well as resistance. So this is semiconductor bar we have chosen here, which contains both, okay, electrons and holes. Let's assume that this is a material. This is rectangular box is made up of both electrons and holes. Then conductivity equation of this is already discussed in equation 19, which we have discussed in earlier classes. In that we calculated conductivity. Conductivity, we said, it is a sum of both whole electron conductivity and as well as hole conductivity. Again, conductivity depends on mobility as well. Okay, so now, so we know that the conductivity of a semiconductor follows this equation 19. For your reference, let me take that equation 19. What is it? I'll just open this material so that you will understand what is that equation 19. Okay, it is the last equation in this. Yeah, hope you can see this equation 19. So this is the equation 19. So the conductivity, uh, the current density Jx in a semiconductor is given by Q times n into mu n. This n is nothing but electron concentration times mobility, plus the whole concentration times the mobility. So this is a total current density in a semiconductor. That even depends on current density depends on the electric field, which is in the positive x direction. And you can substitute the conductivity. This represents conductivity. If you look at this entire shaded portion represents conductivity. So therefore this equation can be rewritten as current density is equal to conductivity times the electric field. So this is the conductivity or current density equation in terms of conductivity and electric field. So current density is a product of conductivity and the electric field. Okay. If you know current conductivity, you can also calculate resistivity. It's a reciprocal of conductivity is resistivity. Now coming back, we know that what is that equation 19. So equation 19, describes about conductivity in terms of current density. Okay. So with that said, let's see this diagram, what it conveys here. This is the semiconductor bar which we have chosen here. There is the length of the bar is taken as L. You can see length starts from here and it ends up here. This is nothing but length of this bar is taken as capital L. This is the length, and the width of the bar is W. Electron motion, you can see this is the direction of electron motion we have assumed here. That means electron will get injected at the distance x is equal to L. That means enters at x is equal to L, and electron leaves at x is equal to 0. And opposite things will happen for the holes. Holes will enter at x is equal to 0. This is the hole motion. So oppositely, you can see that arrow mark shown here. This is for the hole moment. So hole moment and electric field directions are going to be same. Okay, so this electric field causes the hole to move from x is equal to 0 to x is equal to L. That means holes enter at x is equal to 0 and exit at x is equal to L. Okay, and here the applied potential is nothing but E. Don't get confused with electric field. Only in this topic we indicate in the textbook it is shown as electric field, the electric potential as E. Otherwise, you can also label this as V for your information. Okay, this is electric potential, not electric field. The current flowing here is nothing but I. You look at the direction of current flow. Current flow is opposite to the electron movement. So electrons are moving to the this rectangular box where x is equal to L. They are entering here, x is equal to L. So that is electron motion, and holes will be moving opposite to the electron. Okay, the current direction and hole direction both are same. So holes move like this. This is the direction of hole. Okay, and electron move like this. So this is the direction of electron. So both move in opposite direction. So let us see that how do we calculate drift current here. Drift current is because of both electrons and holes moving under the influence of this potential what we apply. There's another diagram which gives you more information, more details of this same diagram, which has been rewritten here to make understanding very easy. So you can see that these are the holes moving from, this is a box, as you are seeing the same box here reconsidered. Holes are moving here from one end of the box, left side of the box to the right side here, and electrons, you can see this electron movement which is shown, which is entering this box from this face, okay, and entering to the other side. Both electrons and hole motion is opposite. This is x is equal to 0 and this is x is equal to L. Okay, so this is the width of the box is W of x. Width is this is the dimension width, it is shown here. Okay, so this is the potential difference applied. This. So electrons are inserted at x is equal to L here, and removed at x is equal to 0. That means electrons leave at x is equal to 0. Holes are inserted at x is equal to 0 and removed at x is equal to L. It is quite opposite, electrons and hole movement. Okay, this is what the notations which we need to be aware. Now let us calculate the current flow through this bar. Okay, so as we said that the hole moment is the same as the current direction. The current flow through the bar is given by the total current which we indicate as capital I, and it's an integration of every cross-sectional area of this box. If you integrate that integration of the cross-sectional area of current density is about current per unit area. So all these current densities per unit area, if you integrate over the entire box, so that integration into the area, that gives us the total current flowing in the this semiconductor bar. So another quantity what you want to find is the resistance here. Let us see the resistance. How do we calculate? The resistance of the bar is given by R is equal to the this is 0 to L we can integrate, and it is D into R of x. So this D into R of x can be written as R of x can be written as it's a voltage. It's a derivative of voltage by the current V of x divided by I of x. Since this entire semiconductor bar is a function of the distance, so therefore the instead of differentiating the R of x, we can write this as d V of x divided by d I of x. Next you can see that V of x is nothing but you can also write in terms of electric field. Okay, so E is equal to V by L. Okay, E is nothing but it is electric field is V by L. V is nothing but applied voltage. So you can substitute here in terms of this d into Vx as E. So E into dx, that's the relation what we get it here, and I of x is kept as it is, and we are integrating from 0 to L. Okay, so electron current flows from whole current actually flows from enters at 0 and it leaves at L. So we are integrating from 0 to L. Okay. Next is this R can be rewritten as I of x can be rewritten as in terms of the current density. You can see here this is relation adjacent to this we have written here. Current density is current by area, and this we have here current term here. We want in terms of current density. So you can cross multiply this current density into area, that gives me the current value. So I is equal to J into A. If you substitute in place of I as J into A, so the new equation for resistance is now in terms of electric field E into dx divided by J into A. Okay, so this is the equation now. Now we know that the J in terms of the electric field and the resistivity. So J can be written as electric field by resistivity, or resistivity can be written as E by J. Okay, so now we can substitute here in place of J as E by resistivity. So resistivity goes to numerator and you are left out with the rho of x, and this term we have made as a function of distance, rho of x divided by this A remains the same. Okay, so now if you integrate this with reference to the length here, we get the final equation as a resistance of this semiconductor material is rho L by A. Rho is nothing but the resistivity of the material, and L is the length of the material, and A is the area, cross sectional area. Okay, so again you can this equation can be rewritten in terms of the conductivity. This can be written as L into sigma into A. Okay, so we know that resistivity is reciprocal of the conductivity. So therefore the resistance of a material is nothing but length and divided by conductivity times area. So you can see here that as length keeps increasing, resistance keeps increasing. Okay, as area keeps decreasing, the resistance also keeps increasing here. So this is actually the resistance, its dependence on the conductivity and length of the conductor. Further, you can substitute for area as W into T. This is the formula in the denominator part, and you can this here you can substitute here. So rho L is kept as it is, and in place of area you can substitute as W into T. So that gives me a new equation for resistance in terms of width and as well as thickness of the material semiconductor bar we have considered here. Okay, rho L by WT. I think this is this term should not be there. L by WT into this rho can be written as 1 by sigma. So sigma represents resistivity of the material. So what is this interpretation here? So we have derived here equation for resistance in terms of the both conductivity and as well as the resistivity. So this equation is applicable even for semiconductor as well, though this is quite often we use it for conductors. The same equation can be reused for semiconductor as well. But only thing is here in semiconductor we should consider both the type of charge carriers, electrons and holes. So that determines the resistance of the semiconductor bar that we have considered here. The physical mechanism of carrier drift requires that the holes in the bar move as a group. Holes, they move in a group, they don't move in any as individual. So the electric field and the electron move is going to be in opposite in direction that we have seen. So both electron and hole components of current are in the direction of the field. Its components of current are in the direction of the field. So as we said already, the field, electric field direction and even the whole moment are going to be in the same direction. But conventional current is going to be in the is positive. That's going to be in the direction of hole flow, which is opposite to the direction of electron movement. So this diagram is again made clear to you that both electron and hole movement. Okay, this is electron current and hole current together is nothing but the total current that flows in the direction of the hole movement here. Okay, which is opposite to the direction of electron movement. What you see in this semiconductor bar. This is the voltage applied, and the field is going to be in the direction of the field, in the direction of the current that is flowing. So the drift current defined by equation 19 is constant throughout the bar. Okay, so that's the current, I what we have said. The nature of the electron and hole flow at the at the contact and in the external circuit is more important, because at the contacts in the bar we assume that it is a ohmic contact, meaning that they are perfect sources and sinks. Okay, if that is not a perfect ohmic contact, if the sources and sinks are not proper, then they exhibit the some resistance even at the contact here. So here for our convenience we assume that the contact what we have shown in this diagram, these contacts here, so they are perfect ohmic contacts. That means the entry of this, the electrons in this case, uh, the entering of electron here and leaving here is going to be perfect. I mean the contact potential is perfectly the ohmic. That means there is no any dissipation here at the contact itself. Okay, so that's the assumption we do here. They are perfect. The contacts used in this semiconductor bar is an ohmic, which has got perfect sources and sinks. Okay, sources means which pushes the charge carriers, and sinks means which accept the charge carriers. So for both the carriers, because there we said that in one end of the bar, if you consider, electrons are pushed and holes are leaving. Electrons are entering and holes are leaving. That's why it is term labeled as source and sink. Okay, it applies to both electrons and holes. Otherwise, the if it's not perfect, ohmic contacts, if they're not perfect, then they again dissipate some energy at the contact potential here. Okay, contacts. So if you consider the current is carried around the external circuit by electrons, there is no problem in visualizing the electron flow into the bar at one end and out of at the other end, which is always opposite to the eye. So we are visualizing the current flow as the opposite of the electron flow if you take this entire circuit. Okay. Thus, for every electron leaving the left hand, which is at x is equal to 0 bar, there is a corresponding electron which is entering at x is equal to L. So that the electron concentration in the bar remains throughout the bar remains at N as well as. There is no change in the electron concentration, because the amount of electron that is entering at x is equal to 0, and for every electron leaving here at x is equal to 0 of the bar, and the corresponding, there is an entry in that x is equal to L. Okay. So that means the total concentration of electron is maintained constant in the bar. Okay, but if you look at as the holes, they reach the ohmic contact at x is equal to L. Here actually the holes enter at x is equal to L. It recombines with the electron, which must be supplied throughout by the external circuit here. So as this hole disappears, a corresponding hole must be made appear at x is equal to 0 to maintain the space charge neutrality. Let me explain this by taking this semiconductor bar once again. So what we are trying to say here is, so here again see, for every electron that enters at this end, so there is a corresponding electron that is leaving here. Okay, so this is a direction of electron leaving, and this is a direction of electron which is entering here. Now if you look at on other side, the holes enter like this. Okay, what also we said here, that the amount of electrons that are entering here and electrons which are leaving here, that must be a constant. That means for every electron that enters here, the corresponding electron leaves its position. Throughout this material, the electron concentration is constant. You can also give explanation other way, that for every electron that is leaving here, that recombines with the holes that is entering here. That means this potential what we applied here, that keeps applying the holes to the electron coming out here, so that recombination happens here itself here. Okay, so that means the total material is is unchanged. It is kept as a neutral. Okay, so because of the electron leaving here, the electron which is entering here, the electron that leaves here, which will combine with the holes here. That means this source must supply continuously the holes and as well as the electrons here, so that this complete material is electrically it is going to be neutral. Okay, there is no loss of the charge carriers in that entire material. So having said that, there is a space charge neutrality is maintained in the entire material here. So it is reasonable to consider the source of this hole as the generation of EHP. We already discussed about electron hole pair at x is equal to 0. That means for every electron that is leaving the at x is equal to 0, the hole will recombine with that electron. Okay, with the hole flowing into the bar, that will recombine, so that the external the total space charge neutrality is maintained in the circuit. So this is about electrons, this drift and resistance. We obtained equation for the resistance in terms of resistivity, and we also showed the drift of charge carriers because of the applied electric field, and that's about this drift and resistance. If you have any questions related to drift and resistance, let's take up this, otherwise we move to the next topic. I hope you understand the what do we mean by drift current here. Drift is basically current that is flowing due to the application of the external force. Okay, and here we need, since we are dealing with semiconductor devices, we need to analyze the both drift of electrons and as well as holes. And resistance expression remains same as the expression what we have seen with reference to conductor. R is equal to rho L by A. So that is applicable even for semiconductors. Okay, so with that said, let me see that if anything is left out. If you look at this slide here, now let me make it this as a full screen. So far what we have discussed is we have taken this instead of showing as a semiconductor bar, here we are showing as a resistance. This is as per the Ohm's law. The voltage applied will results in a current here. We also told about the amount of the electrons entering here will be equivalent to the electrons that are leaving here. So with reference to the bar what we have considered here. So this type of current, it is flowing because of applied voltage, is called as a drift current. As I've already mentioned that you will get to know the drift current and diffusion current more in the next module. Okay, how does drift current flow through a semiconductor? What determines the resistance of a semiconductor resistor? So that's actually the collisions, because as we said in earlier also, electrons while moving collide with different the atoms, lattice atoms, and that causes the resistance in the semiconductor material. There are two types of collisions we have discussed. One is lattice collision, other one is impurity collisions, impurity scattering here. Okay, those two things, those two the parameters will affect the motion or movement of electrons. Other terms which you need to understand here, if you have a closer look, we know that expression like E is equal to V by L. So the applied voltage here is depends on the applied electric field, depends on the voltage and as well as the length of the conductor here. So this is important from solving problems point of view, because based on this in examination they may ask you to solve few problems. So you should be prepared to solve problems based on that. Okay. Other thing is a conductive material also contains the charge density, which is a Q. The unit for Q is given as coulombs per second, coulombs per centimeter cube. We always measure the charge flow in terms of per centimeter cube. So that's why it is coulombs per centimeter cube. That's a charge on electron. Conductive material contains this Q, charge density as Q. Okay, so that's the thing. And the electric field, the other equation, you can also relate electric field that propels. This electric field is responsible for the electron movement. As you are seeing here, electrons are moving from left to right because of the application of force here. So these electrons, when moving, they inject here and they leave here and get attracted to the positive terminal of a battery here. So here you can see that the electric field is responsible for the movement of charge carriers. Okay, so the velocity, average velocity we must consider here, because there are many electrons which are moving in different directions here. Instead of considering a simple velocity term, we need to consider here the average velocity here. So average velocity is nothing but it is equivalent to the mobility times the electric field. So mobility is again the property of the materials. As you keep increasing this the electric field, so corresponding the velocity also keeps increasing here, whereas this mobility is kept constant here. Next term is density of moving charge is called as a current density. So the expression J is the notation. So you can see here all symbols has been given here with their units. V stands here voltage, E stands electric field, which is volts per centimeter. We have seen even the relation of the electric field in terms of voltage. L is the length of the resistor here, this length what we are talking, and V is the velocity in centimeter per second. Mu is the mobility, charge mobility, which is centimeter square by volt second. J is current density, Q is charge density, ampere per centimeter square. Units are same for both current density and charge density. So I is nothing but current which is in ampere or coulomb per second, okay, and A is the cross sectional area which is in centimeter square. So the current density equation is J is equal to Q into V. It's a product of charge into the average velocity here. If you can substitute here the mu into E formula here, you get a new equation for current density Q into mu into E. So current is the total number of electrons passing through cross sectional area per second. If you look at take this cross sectional area, how many electrons are passing, okay, per second. So that gives us the current here. So we are considering here current. The same analysis also can be used for holes. Okay. The field is in the direction of opposite to the electron movement. You can see that electric field is acting, which is opposite to the electron movement here. This is the semiconductor material which has got some resistance. Okay, that is considered in this in analyzing all these equations. Okay. So again, electrical resistance, so far we have showed already this mathematical derivation of resistance in terms of the length and conductivity. The same thing is presented here for your reference here. Okay, how the semiconductor bar exhibits a resistance. So though we have used this relation for conductor, that can be used even for this semiconductors as well. Okay, so all these relations they are interdependent on each other: the electric field, current density, current, all these things. Okay. Okay, so now if you look at scatterings, as we told that there are two types of scattering. When there is no electric field, you can see there is a random motion of electrons here. So there is no one particular directions electrons are not moving here. So for example, electrons will start from here and it collide with lattice atom in the semiconductor, and again it changes its direction and moves to the 3L. The overall, if you look at the path of electron, it's random in nature. Okay. So there is no straight forward, the motion of electrons here. It's going to be a random motion what you are seeing. Okay. So it's like if you drop a color substance to the pure water, the way in which the color gets spread in the water, it's random in nature. So similar thing will happen even in semiconductor as well here. So this is a random motion of electrons here. Okay. So all these things we are discussing is at zero temperature, without applying without increase in temperature. At zero temperature we are discussing here. Okay, there is no thermal motion, so therefore there is a electron they start moving because of concentration gradient randomly. Okay, and they hit with different lattice atoms as we are seeing here. Given there are these two types of scattering what we discussed here: lattice scattering and impurity scattering. Because of that, electrons will move in a random way, what is shown here. When the electric field is applied, okay, with the electric field you can see that there is a net motion of carriers, and you can see the average velocity is taken as V, and you can see that the electron will move in particular directions here with the velocity taken as average velocity here. The expression is given here: V is equal to minus mu times E. Mu is the property of the material. Okay. So depending on the different material, you will have a different mobility. Okay, for silicon, germanium, and different materials has got different mobility here. Okay, so these things already we have discussed about mobility and conductivity. Okay, and the derivations here. I don't want to spend time on that. So this effects also we have discussed in earlier classes, impurity scattering and all those things. Temperature dependence, last class we discussed about this. And the graph shows you that mobility variations with reference to the different doping concentration or impurity concentration here. This was shown for three different materials: one is silicon, germanium, and gallium arsenide. This is all these graphs are at 300 Kelvin. But again, you can see here the electron mobility for silicon is higher compared to the hole mobility. Okay, and again you can see the other materials like for germanium. In all the materials, the electron mobility is higher compared to the hole mobility here. And here doping concentration also, you can see this bottom scale x-axis indicates doping concentration here. As the doping keeps increasing, you can see the mobility keeps dropping. You can see here. So the doping is 10 to the power of 14, 15. This is the scale at which we are doing the doping. All these things are measured at 300 Kelvin here. So as the doping keeps increasing, the mobility keeps can say dropping here. Reason is the electrons, as we said earlier, the chances of doping, you can see here, as the doping keeps increasing, the impurity the collisions or scattering effects will be very high. Okay, So that's why more the doping, lesser will be the mobility. Okay, so this is you can observe in all, even in all materials like silicon, germanium, and this thing. So if you go for higher doping levels, mobility keeps almost decreasing. Okay, this is what the dependence of mobility on doping concentration is shown with three graphs here. Okay. Okay, so this I think this part this completes module 1, and if you have any queries related to module 1, we can ask here before we proceed to the introduce you to the module 2.
So,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, a small query is there. I mean, sir, is it possible to extend the date for the deadlines, that submission, assignment submissions, sir? Like we our lab will over at 3:30, sir.
Okay, can you submit by evening around
Yes, sir.
7:38? It's only
Yes, 8, 9.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
but today you have to submit it because I can't postpone to tomorrow. Okay,
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
today by end of the day, we should submit the assignments, in the Google Classroom. Okay,
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so with that said, let's move on to the module 2. Module 2, let me introduce you to the module 2. Module 2 is PN junctions. So far, what we have discussed is with reference to module 1. Let me open the presentation slides of module 1. Module 2, okay, just let me focus on module 2. Module 2 is PN junctions. Okay, so these are the topics that we need to cover under module 2. Forward bias and reverse biased PN junctions. It's qualitative description of current flow at a junction we need to discuss. No need to pay attention for the derivations of equations. Only from our syllabus point of view, we need to discuss qualitative approach, not quantitative approach. Okay, so section 2.2 is reverse bias in a PN junction we need to discuss, and also we need to focus on different types of breakdown mechanisms. You might have learned the avalanche breakdown and the Zener breakdown. Those two breakdown mechanisms we will cover here. What is the reason behind these two breakdowns? That will be explained in this breakdown mechanisms here. So we will see here the breakdown characteristics and its applications as a rectifiers. So all those things we will discuss here. Even though there are 5 to 6 topics in this module, but a lot of analysis which we need to do uh, uh, from this module. Okay, module 2. Okay, so let us see recap so far what we have discussed, so far what we have understood. So we understood about the properties of n type and p type semiconductors. We defined what do we mean by intrinsic and extrinsic semiconductor. In extrinsic semiconductor, you can see that which is also which can be classified as n type and p type semiconductor. N type is rich in electrons, and p type semiconductor has got majority charge carriers as the holes. We know we understood with the help of band diagram how to make n type semiconductor with the help of the column 5 elements or donor impurities. We can make n type semiconductor, and with the help of the column 3 elements of periodic table, you can create p type semiconductors. Here the impurity elements are called acceptor impurities. Using those two, we can create extrinsic semiconductor. Uh, in this section, we are going to explain to you how to make the variety of applications. We also discussed about n type and p type semiconductor with reference to energy band diagrams. We understood the energy band diagram, how it looks, and p types n type semiconductor, how it looks, and we interpreted with reference to energy band diagrams, physical interpretation, and a few equations also we discussed about conductivity and mobility of both type of semiconductors. Next, coming to the PN junctions, what we are going to see in this module. And this module is an application of the theory what we have discussed in module 1, which here also we need to pay attention to the band diagram of PN junctions, and we need to calculate the electric field in a PN junction. We need to discuss the current flow in an ideal diode and even in practical diode as well, and also we should understand leakage in an ideal diode because of different bias what we apply, and we need to understand different capacitance exist in the PN junction, namely the depletion capacitance, and also we need to understand diffusion capacitance as well due to the mobile carriers. Lastly, we need to focus on this, pay attention to the second order effects in the PN junctions. So with that said, these are the few objectives. Let me introduce you to the PN junction. So what do we mean by PN junctions? So when we separate materials, when separate materials of the p and n type semiconductor materials, when you brought them together, and if you club them together, these two p type and n type semiconductors, that forms a p-n junction here. But practically, just clubbing this p semiconductor and n type semiconductor will not form a p-n junction. Though in theory we say that just taking two different semiconductor materials and joining them makes a p-n junction. In reality, that's not true. We should take a p-type semiconductor and diffuse with n type of impurities. Okay, that's the way you can make p-n junction, or vice versa also it is true. Take an n-type semiconductor and diffuse with the p-type of material to that, you can make p-n junction. That is the a practical way of making p-n junctions. So though in theory we say that we club together two p-n junction, two p-type and another one is n-type semiconductor, that forms a p-n. The interface is very important. If you club like this, there are possibilities of the air bubbles, or air in between these two junctions, and that creates lot of problems in p-n junctions. To avoid that, what we do is, in real fabrication, we will take p-type semiconductor and diffuse an n-type material into this, that forms a p-n junction. So most semiconductor devices contain at least one junction between p-type and n-type material. You can take an example of the bipolar junction transistor, or FET, field effect transistor, MOSFETs, metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor. Any semiconductor device if you consider, it should be made up of at least one junction between p and n type material. The p-n junctions are fundamental to the performance of functions such as rectification, amplification, switching, and other operations in electronic circuits. Majorly you find p-n junction applications as a rectifiers. Rectifier means which converts AC to DC voltage, or AC current into DC current. In that application we will use p-n junctions or diode. And even in amplification also, like example in transistor BJT or FET, we can make use of the p-n junctions. Even in BJT also there are two junctions which help us to do amplification operations in using transistor. You can also perform switching operations using either diode or the transistors. So that means the junctions here, p-n junction, will perform like the rectification, amplification, and switching operations here. Okay, so that's very important if you want to analyze any electronic circuit. Then need to understand the working principle of the p-n junctions. Ignoring this, I just want to ask you a question here. Do you find any other real applications of p-n junctions apart from this what we have mentioned here? Any device or any electronic instruments you have come across where these p-n junctions are found?
So solar plate.
Exactly, solar nano cells are nothing but example of photo detectors. That's one of the application of the p-n junction, where you can see the p-n junctions. Other than that, have you come across like in LED light emitting diodes, where exactly the p-n junction principle is used even in light emitting diodes, right? LEDs, lasers,
Yes, sir.
in variety of applications these p-n junctions are used. Okay, so let's now look at the equilibrium state. In this module we will just discuss equilibrium state of junction, and flow of electrons and holes also will be considered under steady state transient conditions here. Okay, let's go a little bit into the theory. If you consider uniformly doped p-type and p-type semiconductor is put in intimate contact with similar type doped n-type semiconductor, what will happen? So definitely, so when we combine p-type and n-type semiconductors, holes will get diffused from p side to n side. Okay, and electrons will diffuse from opposite. Okay, which is from n side to p side here. Why this diffusion happens here? Any idea about that?
Sir, holes is considered positive and sir n side is negative, so it attracts towards that side.
I mean,
Electron and hole.
you mean to
Electron will attract towards the hole and positive plate of the battery, and holes towards the negative plate.
exactly, exactly, because of the concentration gradient. You might have come across diffusion process in your 10 plus 2 the experiments, diffusion experiment like osmosis process, okay, where charged particles move from region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. Have you come across these type of experiments in your earlier pre-university classes? Okay. Always see the when we have if you have a tank water placed in a water in a tank, it always move from higher potential to lower potential. So the movement of the even electrons and holes takes place with the concentration gradient here. Suppose in the p type you can see that a lot many holes are there, they are the majority charge carriers, okay, whereas in n type the majority charge carriers are electron here. Now obviously the electrons are minority in p type semiconductor and holes are minority in n type semiconductor. They tend to move in different to different the material, okay. So let us see what happens when they move, when they diffuse electron, holes diffuse from p side to n side and electron diffuse from n side to p side. Let us see what is left out after they move from their positions. So if you look at p side, okay, a negatively charged acceptor is left behind after a hole leaves. Okay, are you understanding this here in the p side? Let me show this with reference to diagram. I think you will get more idea on this. Yeah, if you look at this diagram is visible to you. Okay. Okay, look at this. This is one side you are seeing here, the p type semiconductor material. This is an interface which is separating both p type and as well as n type semiconductor material. Here you can see though we have shown here a few atoms in the crystal lattice of this entire material is silicon, of course. There can be even different p-n junctions also. There can be one side p type can be silicon and n type can be even germanium. But here we consider a silicon p-n junction where both p type and n type materials are silicon. In that again in n type material you can see there are few atoms we have considered here to explain the concept, and even in p type material also these are all silicon atoms you can see here, silicon, okay, silicon atoms, okay. So here we have an impurity n type is formed by doping an arsenic impurity here. So this arsenic impurity donates electron because this is column 5 element of periodic table, it donates electron and this becomes the positive ion. The nucleus is complete nucleus is positive, okay, positively charged here, okay, because it has donated electron to the this n type in the entire material. This electron is in the conduction band, okay, it's ready to move anywhere in this in the lattice. So so here this is what we have considered, though we have shown for few atoms here. In reality there will be many atoms in this n type section what we have considered here. This electron this is less, this is more in number in case of n from the n side point of view, and electrons are less in number in the p side. So obviously this electron will get move from region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration here. So you are seeing here the diagram showing here the electrons get diffused to the p type of material here, okay. When it get diffused here, so you can see that it will leave the immobile the ion here, okay, which is called depleted charge here. Are you understanding here? When electron moves from n side to p side, it leaves immobile positive charge here, okay, immobile charge here. This is called depleted charge, and vice versa will happen for the p type of semiconductor what we have shown here. In the p type of semiconductor you are seeing again here silicon atoms here, lattice, few atoms are considered here, and there is a column, the nucleus you can, this is an impurity atom which you can see here, it is a boron we have taken as an example. This is column 3 element of a periodic table, this is trivalent, and since this is trivalent, it forms covalent bond with 3 adjacent silicon atoms. Since one empty position is left out here, that is hole, boron, every boron impurity added creates one empty position here. So this empty position now can accept electrons here, okay, it will move so it will move from this place, you can see it get diffused to the place where exactly the holes are less in number. This direction shows that hole is getting diffused or moving from p side to n side. Okay, this is called diffusion here. So, in conclusion, what we can say here, uh, diffusion is a process. This is all, this entire explanation is given without applying any potential. Okay, this is static condition, equilibrium condition. That means we are not applying any potential. Okay. So when the hole leaves its position here, definitely it creates an immobile negative ion. Okay, here in this place. Okay, the hole leaves, when the hole leaves its position here. So what I mean to say is, this electron keep moving from, diffuse from n side to p side, and it creates positive immobile charge carrier on the n side. Similarly, hole which is present here, where they are majority in number, they moved from p side to n side, and when the hole leaves its position, it creates immobile negative charge carrier on the p side here. Okay, so that's what it is stored at the bottom. Diffusion of electrons or holes leaves immobile dopant ions here. So here you can see at equilibrium condition, you can see the net positive dopant ions can be seen on the n side, negative dopant ions can be seen on the p side here. This is what happens in case of at equilibrium conditions here. Any questions about that? I hope you understood this, the movement of electrons and holes in this in the depletion region. Okay, the end is we will discuss here this point here, how exactly is movement here. So I just want to make it clear these 2 points here. A negatively charged acceptor is left behind the, after the hole leaves net negative charge. On n side, what you see is a positive charged donor is left behind after electron leaves the position. So therefore, there is a net positive charge on the n side and there is a net negative charge on the p side here. So these concepts are very important to understand the p-n junction. So if this is not understood properly, then you feel difficulty in understanding even transistors, even high-end electronic devices. So therefore, pay attention to the movement of the charge carriers even in the p-n junction. So the p-n junction is a fundamental device. So understanding this definitely will help you to understand advanced electronic devices as well. And look at the field here. An electric field is formed from n side to the p side. Okay, let me go back to the same diagram what I have shown here. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sorry for the interruption, sir. Sir, Hamsa ma'am is asking us to join the class.
Okay, I'll leave that point. Okay. Okay. Okay, we'll end up this class, and next class we'll continue with the same, the p-n junctions here. So thank you all for watching, this listening to my class.